Let's talk about, should you submit the FAFSA? This is something that I feel very, very strongly about. And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is yes, yes, yes. Submit the FAFSA. I have a few parents every fall that fight me on this, and I really stand firm and hold my ground. So let's talk about why you should submit the FAFSA. And by the way, the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It's a financial aid form that almost every college in the country requires to be eligible for aid. There's another form that we're not going to talk about today, but some colleges also require that form, but they require it in addition to the FAFSA. So let's talk about this. If you let's talk about why you should submit the FAFSA. If you don't submit the FAFSA, you will not be eligible at that college for any need-based aid if they're a FAFSA only school. So if you are eligible for need-based aid, you're leaving money on the table if you don't submit the FAFSA. Usually I don't have to argue with those families because they know they're leaving money on the table, so they're going to submit the FAFSA. Um, Another thing that you are leaving on the table and your child is not eligible for and you're not eligible for are federal loans. And some of the federal loans that are offered when families submit the FAFSA are some of the best loans out there if loans are going to be part of your strategy. And I will tell you, even if you're saying to yourself, well, I don't want to take out student loans, I don't want my child to take out student loans, and I don't want to take out loans. That's great, but you want to make sure that you know you can afford school without taking out any loans. And if you don't submit the FAFSA, they won't even be a tool in your tool chest when you're going through your best funding strategy for the different colleges that your child is looking at. So that's another very strong reason to submit the FAFSA. Another reason is you're on the college's radar. So even if you do have a high EFC, which is an expected family contribution, that's the amount the colleges think you can afford to pay for 1 year of school. Even if that number's high, like $80,000, $100,000, $200,000, obviously you're not going to get need-based aid, right? You're still on the college's radar. And you know what? If a college is not need blind and they see a high EFC, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? They know that that family can afford to pay for school. And that's one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why kids transfer. It's because of affordability, because families haven't planned and they realize midstream that the college is not affordable. So for a college to see that, that could actually be an advantage from the admission side of things. Okay. Another reason is that some colleges require the FAFSA to be on file to award merit aid. And if you know what merit aid is, you're probably thinking that doesn't make much sense. And you're right, it doesn't make much sense. Merit aid is non-need based aid. So it's aid that's awarded actually through the College of Admissions, right? So it has nothing to do with need and numbers and finances, but it is what it is. There are some colleges that if they don't have the FAFSA on file, your child will not be awarded merit aid. And no, I don't have a list of all of those colleges, right? Even in the industry, we've tried to put together a list, and I've never seen one where everybody can agree, yeah, that's accurate. And the other piece is colleges can always change how they do things. They can always change their policies, right? So it's just better safe than sorry. Submit the FAFSA. And if they need it on file for merit aid, you're not leaving that sort of money on the table, right? Another thing is when you submit the FAFSA, you're submitting it to the government and it's not a third party. They're already getting your financial information because you're going to file your taxes. Okay. So in this age of identity theft and confidentiality being so important, and all this hacking that goes on, I get it. You don't want to be willy-nilly sharing really confidential information to third parties. But when you're submitting the FAFSA, you are not doing that. It's going to the federal government. And as I said, you're filing your taxes, so they're already getting it. So those are some to me, some really strong reasons, powerful reasons to submit the FAFSA. So I strongly recommend that you do this. I know that you might have heard from a neighbor or a sister that you don't need to do it, but before you make that decision, I would think long and hard and maybe think about this vlog. And I strongly recommend that you submit the FAFSA. Now, the CSS profile that I mentioned earlier, that's a whole nother conversation that needs to be had with families specifically around your situation. But when it comes to the FAFSA, I recommend that all my families and all the parents that I try and impact and support in this process to submit the FAFSA. And as always, enjoy the journey.